What if the fuel you don't eat could sharpen how you think, steady your energy, and rewrite your long-term health story? Not a miracle powder, not a hack, just a different way your body burns fuel. A scientist spent a decade living that experiment, and what he found challenges the rules most of us were handed. The punchline isn't keto cures everything. It's stranger, messier, and a lot more personal. He grew up doing the right things and still ended up on the wrong side of the scale. Then came a diagnosis that replaced guesswork with numbers: type 1 diabetes, which meant insulin pumps, CGMs, and a front-row seat to what food does to human chemistry in real time. When you live by the graph, you notice something most of us miss. High and variable blood sugar isn't just a bad afternoon. Over years, it's a wrecking ball. Clinicians track it with HbA1c, an average of your blood sugar over months. Researchers use it because it signals future risk, especially for the heart. The question becomes painfully simple. If glucose control sits at the top of the health pyramid, why do we start by arguing about rims when the engine won't turn over? But food is where this actually gets interesting. Carbohydrates are powerful. They raise blood sugar fast and push insulin up to match. That's normal physiology. For many people, it's also where the roller coaster starts. Spikes, crashes, cravings, repeat. Therapeutic carbohydrate restriction flips that script. Lower the carbs, lower the swings, insulin demands drop, and the body taps fat, producing ketones, an alternative fuel that can cross into the brain. Reports show that in type 1 diabetes, a carefully managed ketogenic diet has helped some people flatten the glucose chaos and slash insulin needs. It's not new either. Doctors used versions of this strategy for seizures a century ago. Modern studies revived the interest. The twist? The grocery aisle learned the vocabulary. Zero sugar on the front, maltodextrin on the back, and your CGM still goes fireworks. Labels can be a maze. Physiology doesn't care about branding. So what happens if you stick with this long enough to matter? One case, 10 years, tight control. The same person, the same disease, a radically different playbook. Long-term ketosis with meticulous tracking. The outcome is the kind of thing that makes both sides of the diet wars lean in. Glycemia, normalized, insulin, cut by roughly half, cardiovascular testing. Here's where eyebrows go up. LDL cholesterol, often the villain, rose. Yet advanced assessments showed a cardio profile that didn't just avoid harm. It looked unusually good for age and disease status. It's a single case, not a universal law, but it underlines a stubborn point. Lumping everyone into one rule obscures the outliers, and you might be one. So is higher LDL a smoking gun, or sometimes a decoy? Here's the controversy in plain language. Some people on very low-carb diets see LDL-C climb a little. A smaller group sees it rocket. Case series describe lean mass hyper-responders with LDL numbers that make clinicians nervous. Cardiologists point to ApoB and long-term risk and advise caution. Researchers also note HDL often rises and triglycerides fall, but the center of gravity is still this: particle burden matters. Translation: if you try this approach, monitor your markers, ApoB, lipids, maybe CAC if your doc agrees, and be ready to adjust fats toward unsaturated sources if your numbers go the wrong way. The diet isn't the identity, the data is. Meanwhile, something else is happening, north of the neck. There's been buzz for years that ketones feel clearer than carbs. In 2020, researchers tested a piece of that idea with MRI. They compared drinks that pushed the brain toward glucose versus ketones, then watched what happened to brain network stability, how consistently different regions communicate. Ketones came out ahead, glucose trailed. It doesn't mean superpowers. It does suggest that fuel choice can alter how the brain's networks hum along, and that matters when we talk about aging and attention. It's early, but it's not hand-waving. It's imaging. So do you have to overhaul your entire pantry to feel it? Not necessarily. In 2016, an Oxford team working with DARPA's metabolic optimization idea put a ketone ester in elite cyclists and found a 2% performance edge in a tightly controlled time trial. Since then, more studies landed across the board. Some confirm benefits in certain contexts. Others show neutral or negative results depending on how you combine carbs, dose, and the gut tolerance of the drink. The headline isn't magic bottle, it's context. Meanwhile, newer 3-butanediol formulations raise blood ketones quickly and are generally easier to get down. Recent human data shows acute BHB elevation and modest glucose lowering. If you're expecting a stimulant buzz, you'll miss it. If you watch your metrics, you might notice steadier outputs and different recovery if the rest of your plan is dialed. Early signals? Interesting. Verdict? Still forming. But what about training and the fear of no carbs, no power? Short studies, 5 days, 2 weeks, often find a dip in high-intensity performance on low-carb diets. The catch is adaptation. Give it 4 weeks or more and the picture changes. Keto-adapted athletes have posted record fat oxidation rates at intensities long thought to be carb-locked. That doesn't erase the mixed literature. It explains some of it. If your sport is all-out glycolytic bursts, your strategy won't match a 100-mile ultra. The lever is real, the setting is yours. And then there's the part no one wants to hear. The grocery store is gamed against you. Most of the center aisle is engineered for one more bite. Not evil, just business. Starch plus sugar plus salt plus flavor chemistry equals dopamine fireworks, then hunger again. Even healthy labels can hide fast-absorbing carbs behind friendly names. If your goal is stable energy and better markers, the boring advice wins. Build the plate around whole foods, non-starchy veggies, quality protein, and fats that skew unsaturated if lipids creep up. Beware liquid calories, soda, juices, even heavy smoothie blends, because they can spike faster than your habits can keep up. If you experiment with low-carb or ketosis, eat enough protein, lift something heavy, sleep like it's your job, and track your own numbers. If labs drift the wrong way, especially APOB, tune the fat sources or the carb budget. The point isn't dogma, it's outcomes. This isn't a crusade against fruit or bread. It's recognition that a large share of us carry some degree of metabolic dysfunction. For that group, therapeutic carb restriction can be a real lever, sometimes the lever. Reports claim it can normalize glycemic control in subsets of type 1 and type 2 diabetes, but results vary and medical oversight matters. This space has zealots and skeptics. You don't need to be either. The science says fuel choice changes the body you live in, the hormones you release, the way your brain networks fire, the story your long-term markers tell. It also says individuals diverge. Some glide, some stall, some need to hybridize. If you treat your energy like data instead of identity, you'll know whether ketones are a detour, a shortcut, or just a tool in the bag. In the end, the most controversial claim here might be the simplest. The best diet is the one your numbers can defend and your life can sustain.